Hey everyone, this is Gidro, and this is going to be somewhat of a different type of a video, mostly audio-centric, so don't be afraid to tab out and listen if you're at all interested. I would like to talk about the games of this year and games moving forward to 2017. So in essence, consider this something of a games of the year and special mentions for me, maybe recommendations, stuff like that. So, first of all, big releases in my eyes for this year that I was looking forward to was of course Dark Souls 3, Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, Doom, and Xcom 2. I've already covered some of these games on videos this year, and at the end of this one there'll be links to the critiques and reviews that I've done on them, and of course they'll be in the description box below. Okay, so Xcom 2 is first on my list, and I haven't devoted a video for it, so I'll just summarize my thoughts and I'll try to stay concise. Now, I really liked Enemy Unknown and Enemy Within, and I spent a great number of hours on them, but I have to say I'm a little biased since, of course, I've played and I'm familiar with the original DOS game, and I found that with the expansion Enemy Within, the modernized take on XCOM is a really good game, or like a foundation, a framework for like a really compelling experience. I like in particular how it didn't lose the sort of complexity and the inspired mechanics like the bouncing grenades off of walls and stuff like that, but what it did remove was the, in my opinion, quite hellishly slow gameplay of the original, where managing every single one of the dozen soldiers and keeping a close scrutiny on their action points just so that you can have them face the right way, crouched at the end of their turn. So that was gone, and it made for a game that rolled forwards very smoothly despite being a turn-based tactics game. And with the variation of the missions, enemy types and troop specializations through the expansion packs and add-ons, it made for a really nice cocktail that I still want to drown myself into now and then. The second XCOM, however, didn't in my eyes do a whole lot of new things, but it's not like it really had to. It delivered more of that smooth tactical gameplay, and it really satisfied that XCOM craving, even if the launch week was a nightmare for me. I don't know what was up with that, but if I remember right, it ran like crap. I don't know if others had similar issues though. But yeah, as it stands, I find XCOM 2 is a great game, but I feel like I'm still waiting for it to get its own Enemy Within type of expansion, and if, or I hope when it gets one, I know it's gonna eat up a lot more hours on this planet. All in all, I really quite liked it, but I was really left wanting more, which in the end I guess is a good sign. Then there's Dark Souls 3. First of all, I have to say that I was maybe a little too lenient or maybe spellbound by it when I made the original review video for it. The game's not bad, no, not at all, but the more I've played it, it started to feel like a Bloodborne reject with its faster paced combat that, at least for me, killed off a lot of that slow and deliberate gameplay that Dark Souls 1 and 2 established with the sort of movement and stamina regeneration. And I found that it's incredible how small tweaks like negating the importance of equipment load and lowering the cost of rolling makes it feel like a different type of a combat game. But I guess to the layman that can sound like I'm nitpicking, so fair enough. So I have to say that I'm not disappointed with the game at all, but I guess when you're spoiled with the prior games, and if you're one of those who can really, and I mean really, appreciate the first game's first half, then that'll turn out to be what you really want from the series. But the third one is a straightforward slogfest that didn't in the end have a whole lot of content to it, and I have to say that one of the few initial complaints I had about it after finishing was this niggling feeling of that's it, and then the future playthroughs became a little predictable when the only crossroads in progression you could take were to either kill the dancer early or pick between the swamp or the cathedral as your first destination. Then came along the DLC, which I honestly liked, at least thematically and in the way it played, but it was too damn short as well. I slowed down and I really tried to take my time with it, but it tallied up to be roughly 6 to 8 hours at most. But what it had to offer, however, was quite tight. And I can really just hope that the last of the DLCs will be a fitting closure for the series. But in general, the game was good, but I suppose it's a little too easy to expect absolute perfection when you're a little bit of a fanboy. And yeah, I was really expecting this to be the game of the year for me, but we'll get to that later. Okay, then the new Doom. Man, what a game this was, but once again, maybe, just maybe, I was a bit too captivated by it at the start. It's not a bad game by any means, and it's definitely up there on my top 3 for this year, and no doubt I'll reinstall it here and there to murder my way through it. But again, I love Doom 1 and 2 so much, and I think in general that the old Doom is a perfect video game, but that's something I intend to write a video about in the possibly distant future. With the new one, it's the visceral nature and the tight gameplay that really make the package, and as always, id Tech is a miracle machine when it comes to game engines. But again, as I said in the initial review, it's like Serious Sam, and I've played a lot of those games too. You enter a room, you kill everything, rinse and repeat ad infinitum, and while there's nothing wrong with that when it's portrayed well, and more importantly, if it plays well, which it really does, really freaking well while we're at that, but honestly, the levels and stages aren't really memorable, at least to me, and it didn't compel me to play through it multiple times, and just to throw it out there since I've been sitting on this thought for a while. Okay, close your eyes. Picture Mount Erebus from the first Doom. E3M6 if you will, one of my favorites. It's a really open level with a handful of indoor areas and secrets. You fire your gun at the starting point and then what happens? Everyone in the outside area gets alerted to your presence and they'll start to do the rudimentary AI patrol towards your way, and then what? They get stuck in corners, in areas where you don't expect them to waddle around. It's a small little thing, but it's unpredictability, something the new game didn't have in the slightest. Once you play through the areas and find out the spawn triggers in the new Doom, that's it. There's nothing more to it. The original in my eyes is just a perfected form of FPS that I personally don't think it's aged poorly at all, and I mean this sincerely. It has to be on my top 3 games I've ever played in terms of personal preference and hours played. Hell, I still have my old USB stick here, where I used to store a source port and a dozen of WADs and levels, which I'd boot up in school at every damn opportunity I'd get. And if you say I'm wearing rose-tinted goggles, then you're next, chump! But as a closing note to the Doom segment, it's not bad at all. I like it a lot. In particular, it's the cacophony of screams and the down-tuned, palm-muted riffs that gave me a bloody, throbbing murderection every time, and I don't regret a minute spent playing that game. I'm not looking forward to this one at all. I know I'm gonna probably make a few enemies with this one, and before I get into it, I must say that I realized that I'm probably in the minority. But here goes nothing. Deus Ex Mankind Divided. I've said my piece on the review video earlier on this year, and I stand by roughly every word I've said. The gameplay I found is great, but it doesn't have substance to it that I expect from the series. And I'm noticing a theme here when I say this, but I'm a big fan of the original game, and there's something strange with all my top 3 games ever beginning with the letter D, but yeah. The original Deus Ex is such a special game, and while in the gameplay department I think it's aged very poorly, it's got a lot of soul and, more importantly, thought put into it. And that's what makes me fire it up every now and then, time and again. Mankind Divided has certainly taken the many-faceted approach to your goals in the stages and maybe brought it close to perfection, but it's got this overly dramatic flair all over it. And while it presents you with parallels to real-life issues and wide-scale problems in general, it just doesn't seem to do a damn thing to convey anything else over. Oh, look at this! This is horrible, just look at it. And on top of that, the writing didn't really grip me either. And then there's the plot that seemingly wants to lay a little bit of foreground to the characters you know from the original, while keeping an original course on the team's vision for the game. It just ended up being forgettable in my eyes. And then there's the disgraceful marketing and microtransactions pushed on the product by the publishers. I mean, come on. But at the end of the day, it was a good game as far as gameplay goes, but I just wish the franchise was different, really. I want more of the original, but I love the modern iteration's mechanics, but I guess you just can't have both. Okay, so this is a curious one. The one game I have the least complaints about, and found to be the most gripping experience so far. A game of the year for me, if you will. And what makes it curious that it's cheating a little bit, because the game is 4 years old already, but on the semantic side of things, the PC port for it came out January of this year. The game is Dragon's Dogma, and I freaking loved it! I have to say that it's incredibly rare for me nowadays to find a game and get completely engrossed in it, but this game did just that. Now, mind you, it's not without its flaws. It has this combat system that kinda poses as a skill-based one, while really beneath the surface it's all about the statistics and numbers. The story is lukewarm, and the dialogue is written in this very hackneyed oldie English, and it dangles the smallest thread of a plot in front of you, and then right by the end it just dumps an exposition nuke. But it's just so captivating despite these rough edges. The themes and plot it conveys towards that inevitable end, it's very memorable. The music is brilliant and the game is just teeming with atmosphere. It's got this easily exploitable and overly cumbersome inventory and menu system. It explains very little of its mechanics and it doesn't hold your hand at all. And I love it for that. And I really need to whip up a dedicated video for it one day. It's just so freaking good if you're into these diamonds in the rough, which I certainly am. Yeah, that'd be my pick for the my personal best game that I've played this year, but it doesn't really adhere to the rules, now does it? So if I had to pick from the actual new releases this year, I think I'd crown Xcom 2. I spent the most hours on it, and I found myself being the least disappointed in it out of all the games. And, well, it has a lot of future potential, and I'm really looking forward to and hoping that it kinda realizes that. As for the upcoming year's games, I'm really not trying to buy into any hype trains that go nowhere fast, but the few games that I'm really looking forward to try are Neo, For Honor, and of course the last of the Dark Souls 3 DLCs. And lastly, to close it off, I promise this is not for the sake of forced interaction, but drop a comment and let me know your picks for the year, what you liked and didn't like. I'm genuinely interested since, well, I've missed out some games. I neglected to mention Overwatch and stuff, which was fun, but yeah, I know I've been missing out. Games big and small. And let me know if you liked this or didn't like this format of a video, and, well, for now, I guess take it easy and have a nice rest of the year. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you next time.